Mike, let's start, though, with the signing of Mike Hughes. Hughes, by the way, guys, for those who don't know, is a former first-round pick of the Vikings. Now, he played with the Chiefs and the Lions the past 2 seasons, started 11 combined games, but he's coming in here because, for those who don't remember, we've lost Isaiah Oliver.
Yeah, Isaiah Oliver goes to San Fran, so you need a nickel guy / slot guy. We thought maybe Richie Grant could experiment with that, with adding Jesse Bates. But you get a guy in here, and Mike Hughes, who can be slotted into that nickel spot. And a 2-year deal. First-round picks always get more shelf life in the league, but this is a guy that, again, doesn't break the bank and is going to serve a role. We're kind of, and we'll talk about the other pieces, we're kind of checking all the boxes. Maybe it's not in the sexy way some fans expected this year with all this cap space, but they're addressing needs.
Yeah, the big splash, obviously, was Jesse Bates, right? These other moves, they're worthy, and they may really work, and it helps our team, but you may not be as excited about them. This is one of those moves. This is Mike Hughes going to come in here, and if the defense is better and he's playing that slot receiver, Mike, that's a lot of times your third down guy that you're trying to get the ball to. He's going to play a role. He talked about the foundation here that the Falcons are trying to build.
We're putting together some pieces to get this thing rolling. I'm just excited to get to work with the guys, and I think over the course of building up to the season, I think what's important is that we have to find a foundation of to get things rolling. And I think once we lay down that foundation, then we can start really building on, getting this thing turned around. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
So I do like the secondary the way it looks on paper. Okay.
Yeah, because Casey Hayward coming back from the torn pectoral muscle, which takes forever to heal up, but he's going to be ready to roll presumably by, not OTAs, he'll be ready to go by July when camp opens up. But he did really well. He was, if you go back and look at our offense, I should say the secondary, how offenses performed, they actually kind of started staying away. But to be honest with you, they're kind of going after A.J. Terrell because Casey Hayward was actually doing a really good job. Remember we said kind of what's up with Terrell, then Terrell got hurt.
Yep.
But Hayward was good the first 6 games. So if he's back, all of a sudden you got a little more depth, and maybe they draft a corner. I don't know if they're going to draft a corner with the 8th overall pick, but maybe they do that too.
Well, I do think the best corner on the board will be there. I do. And you may have a decision.
There'll be an edge rusher. There'll be a corner.
Yep.
And again, that's what you technically don't need it right now, but if there's an offensive tackle you have graded higher than those two, don't be surprised if that happens either.
Yeah, all 3 of those positions will be probably available at 8. We're going to talk more about what the Falcons are saying about Jalen Carter coming up here in 10 minutes. Let's hear Mike Hughes talk about playing the slot. He says that's kind of what they've told him.
I've been told that they like me in the slot, but everywhere I've been, playing in the slot, and things happen during that long 17-week season. So I see myself playing outside some too.
Yeah, in case you wonder, from the Falcons website, last year with Detroit, lining up inside 220 times, outside 268. Now again, Pro Football Focus, some of those metrics don't tell the whole story because what was his job in zone coverage, for instance. But anyway, he grades out a little bit better as far as run than he does in his pass grades, in his coverage grades. Again, that's Pro Football Focus. Take it with a grain of salt. But he's certainly solid in the slot. That may be the perfect spot.
Yeah, I think it can help. And again, this is the job that Terry Fontenot is really good at. Right? Pro personnel, knowing guys that can play in the league and how it fits into your system. Now, Mike, before we get into what else our needs may be and what we're looking for, let's talk about the latest news of the Falcons meeting with Calais Campbell. At least there's a visit scheduled.
Right.
What does it mean for a guy, as Chris talked about earlier, in Yeah Man, No Man, that has this kind of size, this kind of experience, if you can add him to this Falcon football team?
I mean, he really is like like a refrigerator box on legs. I mean, this guy's a monster. He was such a stud. I really wanted him to be added to our depth in 17. We didn't have the coin for that year. But remember, he signed a big deal with the Jaguars, $60 million contract. This is back in 17. But he's always been a durable piece. I think he's just, 99 sacks, Chris? So just one shy of 100. He's older. He would be 37 on September 1st. But again, guys, this is rotational. And I know it doesn't sound sexy, and you're saying, well, why would you spend money on a guy's only playing 30 snaps? We haven't had this depth since 16 and 17. It's just something we have not been able to afford, and now we'll be able to put it together.
Yeah. So, again, limited snaps, situational football. That's how you have to think about this. This is not a guy that's going to come in here at this age and play every down, but I do think he would help. And more than anything, I like having veteran guys around, Mike. We got a young team. I mean, we really do, especially on that side of the football. We got a young team. So we'll see if that happens. But just because he's interested or they're interested doesn't mean that a deal's going to get done.
If you go back, I'm just trying to give you a field of reference. Take it all the way back, Carl. It was Tyson Jackson, Grady Jarrett, Adrian Claiborne, Jonathan Babineau, Courtney Upshaw, Rashid Hageman. That was 17. That's the last time we had more than two guys you could actually say, okay, I don't feel bad when they're on the field.
Yeah.
Even though Hageman had his issues, he was still an okay piece of the rotation.
Yeah, he was a big space eater and did his job, especially that year. All right, as far as the Falcons and what else is going on, what else do we need? Right? I know you're still thinking we need another pass rusher. That's a given, whether you sign all these guys or not. Now, the irony today is we do get the news that Goldman is coming back, Eddie Goldman. And Eddie Goldman was a guy that we signed. We thought he was going to play for us. And then right before camp was like, I'm out. And everybody's like, okay. He's 29 years old, and I know, like, for example, Mike Franco, who follows us on social media, and we invite you to as well, at Mike Bell, ATL. I'm going to put him up. See Dukes, the radio show, Dukes and Bell 929. Follow the radio station at 929 The Game. Franco says, y'all kidding me, right? He says, I've supported Art and Terry, but I'm confused on this. Do we need retired players?
He's only 29. Again, Carl and I joked about it last year at camp. I was like, man, Eddie, we hardly knew you because he was signed. And again, Ryan Pace, the connection. Ryan Pace, the former Bears general manager, came in. He brought in Elijah Wilkinson, who actually played well till he got hurt. And in this case, this dude, just for whatever reason, was out. He's 29 to be 30, so he's still in his prime, whatever he's got left. Guys, I understand this. It's not sexy. I'm not trying to talk down to you. It's just something we haven't had. We can't rotate. What did the Eagles do? They rotated 8 freaking guys in the defensive line. We had Taquan Johnson and a bunch of dudes on practice squad last year because of injuries and everything else. So this is something a good football team needs, and it will help the other guys on the outside. So it's good, just not sexy.
And I'm okay with it. If he's 29 and can play, you know me. Can he play? I'm not overly excited because I don't know if he can play. You take a year off, where's your head? I don't know all of those things. If you're telling me he's going to come in here and help us, I'm all for it. So we get that news today. So my point is, some people are saying, well, this may be the reason that they don't draft a defensive interior lineman. It still should not stop you from wanting to do that. So even with what Mike's saying about the rotation, now we need another pass rusher. Here's the other thing. We just did the move for Mac Hollins. Receiver room, I think, is full. Are we okay there?
Yeah, I think you draft another receiver somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's not considered an elite receiver draft. You still have a bunch of cheap, inexpensive. They're getting cheaper by the minute. I mentioned Shark to you yesterday, the former Jaguar. Is McCole Harbin still out there? I'm just giving you options. He's, I don't know what his contract would look like. But if you want somebody with some speed, if he can stay healthy, you can still do it through the draft. We need another one, at least one more wide receiver in the room. But
you think so?
Hollins is a guy. He's a block. He's like, reminds you a little bit of Mohamed Sanu because he's a really good run blocker as a wide. He takes pride in that. Some guys don't want to do that.
No, listen, and he's big. I mean, Sanu was a big guy for a wide receiver. All right, so we're just talking about needs, all right? And again, if you're going to say, well, wait a minute, then we shouldn't be done in free agency. Well, we don't know what they prioritized in the draft. That's the deal. Whatever needs you field, okay, and I'll say this, for example. You're not drafting a safety, okay? Nope. You just spent the most money on a safety that you've spent ever in Jesse Bates. You're not drafting a safety, so that you can take that out. But these other positions where you've added, Mike, these pieces that are not overly expensive and are rotational guys, if you felt like you could add more star power, more athleticism at those positions, it shouldn't deter you from drafting those guys. And that's where we're kind of at. So we say, hey, another pass rusher. Mike says another receiver in the wide receiver room. All right, so do you feel comfortable about the offensive line?
Well, see, there you go, because you've got a guy in McGarry that you signed on a pretty good deal. Jake is not getting any younger. Matter of fact, the guy that I always wanted over there, looks like he's kind of struggling now, is Taylor Lewan. Remember him with the Titans?
Yes.
But Jake is still plugging away. Maybe not called Pro Bowl, but he's been a solid piece. So here's the thing. Whatever you're looking for, if you feel that Skoronski or Paris Johnson, one of those guys, is really ranked high, again, we don't know what their whiteboard looks like. You need an heir apparent for Jake at some point, and if you feel this guy's that guy that's going to be a bookend for you for a decade, the fans will be miserable about that too, but maybe you do that. If somebody snakes you on the edge rusher that you had ranked really high.
Yeah.
And then there's the corner options. That wouldn't preclude you from going after one of those big corners, right? Or trade down. Because you got more salary, you got cap space to trade down and pick up extra picks.
If you're wondering, the Falcons have $24 million left. Okay, we started with 67 or 68. they need to save, okay, and I'm not going to get into a cap school here with you, but they need to save $5 million. Every team has to save a certain amount for their draft picks, okay? So they're going to save $5 million for draft picks. So in essence, subtract that, and you got this left. What can you do with that? Maybe they want to hold on to some of that, Mike, just in case something happens during the season. You may have to go out and get a guy. Maybe at camp something happens, God forbid, Mike, and you might have to go out and get another guy, and you make a deal. So it's all not going to be spent. You're not going to get to zero, is my point. But that's the case every year. But you're going to spend, up to 80% of this and then see where your team is at. Meanwhile, Atlanta Joe hits us up on social media. He says, Terry hasn't done enough to make you believe that Bijan Robinson is going to be a Falcon. No. If you're telling me that's going to be the overall 8th pick now, is he worthy of it? Yes, I think he's one of the top 5 or 6 players in this draft. He's unbelievable. But not for us at 8.
No, we've already established a 1,000-yard rusher who runs like a beast. I got no problem. You talked about wide receiver. I got no problem going in the 3rd or the 4th round for another running back. You can never have too many running backs. For every Derrick Henry or, let's be honest. There's guys that have a shelf life now. And I'm honest with the Bijan Robinson. That's a guy, if you draft, you're maybe not feeling warm and fuzzy about giving him that $75 million contract after year 5, right? Because nobody's getting paid anymore. Running backs are getting devalued.
No.
I'm not saying, I'm with you. He's the best running back in this class. Running back's not an immediate need for this team. I want you'll get
when
more
did we
for
find
depth.
Algier? 5th round.
Correct. One thing about Dimitrov, we got Devontae Freeman, we got Tevin Coleman. Can we talk? We got those dudes in the middle round. You can always find a good running back in the middle round.
Yeah.
Again, the guy's getting back to this Madden game thing. We just had a 1,000-yard rusher. Why am I drafting Bijan Robinson when I need pass rush? I need another offensive line for depth. Come on, guys.
Yeah, and I love the kid, but not for us at 8.